Right now, we are talking about the fact that the physical nature of reality is dependent upon the non-physical nature of reality. So anyone that attempts to answer the question, what is life, what is reality, can't help eventually ending up with the fact that the physical body does not resolve the enigma. In fact, you're left with a dilemma. They have to finally say, well, there's something in the unseen nature of myself I'm just beginning to touch. That unseen nature is thoughts. And therefore, if one would want to know what the mind is and how it thinks, we have to go back down to the thought processes itself. You see, no one's thoughts are exactly the same as the other. However, the fact is the consequences of the thoughts are equal to the other individual. You talk about 2, 10, 2 million, 200 million. If you should raise your hand and point a weapon at someone else and cause the death of the physical body, it doesn't matter whose physical body, the individual therefore is left with the same reaction that the other individual is, and that is he has changed that energy which constructs his thought processes, and that energy has a twofold process to it. It boomerangs since it's traveling forward and backwards, so to speak. The forward movement, since it is a negative bias, will return its negative results. If it was a positive projection of energy because of a thought, I love you, the return would be the harmony, the harmonic of that thought. And we know that harmonics function on the basis of 2 plus the original frequency. I hate you results in 2 times and a half more hate being returned to the individual. Where does that go? Where does that energy go? It's going into a reservoir. And where is that reservoir? That's the mind. The mind is a reservoir. And it is accumulated there, just like a capacitor in electronic parlance. That capacitor, it builds and builds and builds the nature of its information, and then eventually it must release it. And that release is another cycle of the thought processes, which will then ring out and touch some other person. How does the mind think? The mind thinks on the basis of what you put into it. The mind will do whatever you ask it to do. We have the freedom to decide what side of life we want to live from, the basement or the top floor. The mind will accept whatever you put into it. It's a vast reservoir. It's the infinite creative intelligence. It doesn't take sides. It doesn't say this is negative, that's positive, this is evil, this is good, you see. However, because we as searchers after truth are discovering, it is only through the experience of having lived the various thoughts that contain the what we call the polarity, negative or positive polarity, that we realize what it is. Until we have been able to see it, such as a research scientist does, we're doing that research on ourselves. That's life. And life is learning to be analytical, and in that analysis of our own selves, to finally come to the position that we put the thought there, we accumulated this type of feeling that makes you dissatisfied, or makes you feel a thrill because you're receiving the abundance of positive returns from the people who you administer. If you're a nurse, a doctor, a lawyer, a shoemaker, an artist, an author, a hairdresser, it doesn't matter. You are servicing your energies, and you are learning through contact with each and the other what you have in yourself. We harbor, in other words, we harbor the nature of our own reality within us. And what is real to one person will be based upon the crimes that he's or she's committed against themselves. And they will say, well, that's it, that's life. Don't trust anyone. Don't give a foot to the other person. And so on. That's what they have created. And that's the nature of their mind. So the mind is, it is not personal. It's an impersonal electronic device. And in its impersonality, it can be used by any individual to determine its value. And thereby we learn through life to recognize that we can store up a body of life experiences that will be the nature of our future. That body of life experience will transmit to us the higher orders of life. And that the higher orders of life will be obviously accumulated from the non-atomic side of life. And believe it or not, even though we live through the physical body, we are using the unseen energies of the mind to factor each life experience. So we're really not physical beings. We're really pouring in, you see, the nature of our creative energies. We're pouring it into the submersible vehicle we call the physical body. Since we do think, and we know that thoughts are energy, the energy that we've created, we also know that you can't destroy energy. So what happens to a thought once it's been created? Where does it go? The thoughts of an individual are actually latticed with his own fingerprint, except it's an energy print. And because it's been formed from his own frequency, no one has the exact same frequency pattern in their energies self, with their mind. Therefore, that thought is connected to you. It isn't separate. It's your thought because it's got your fingerprint, your energy print on it. The next step is to live one's life with the thought processes that are the actuality of outgoing giving of self type, positive. When you're doing these things, you don't think of what you're doing, you do it. It's the doing part that is the positive nature. And also it can be the negative nature. But if it's positively biased, where you are giving your energies outwardly to help another individual in whatever one's work is, one doesn't think about what one is doing. You know, you don't sit back because the very act of thinking about it sets up an inertia, you see. However, the fact of the matter is the vast majority of people, including ourselves, carry a great accumulation of thought forms that have been separated from the reality of its spiritual manifestation.